Hello guys and welcome to the SAU streaming network and to DNTV. So today I'm going to be doing a few of my pre-recorded videos over the next 5 to 6 days. I'm going to be premiering my shows that I do with the Bold and Bonker Boys. My show is normally on a Friday and it's known as the Lost Magics. So I'm going to be premiering some of my shows that I've been doing there. These are educational shows. These are really interesting. They are all sorts of topics, but these ones vary. So today's one is a show that I've done a few weeks back, and this is to do with the Blair Witch Project and talking about that show and that film and stuff. You'll see that on the video. So what I'm going to be doing is obviously muting so that you can see the video. So I'm just going to bring the video up, guys, while I'm talking to you. I hope that you're all well and healthy and happy. Before I do bring the video up, I do also want to say just to everybody that is coming in as well, that when I am live, I've got no problems with you smoking cigarettes and stuff like that. But when you're on the live, if you actually have your camera off when you're smoking, because obviously we air out to many platforms and we have sponsors and other people that help us to get out there, and this is a professional show. So I'm just putting this out to everyone. I'm not moaning or saying anything negative to anybody. I'm just saying so that you know for the future when you come up on the shows, because obviously where we have sponsorships and we're going out to lots of different platforms, we do need to make sure that we are within the rules and things, guys. So lots of love and light, and I would like to say a big happy Father's Day to all of the lovely men out there that do their job and look after their children and things like that. I hope that you're having an awesome day and that you're all being spoiled. I also give a big massive happy Father's Day out to my partner, who is an awesome dad as well. So I'm just going to bring up the first show that I'm doing, sweethearts, so that you can see what I'm doing, and I will be muting mine, but you'll be able to see the actual show. I hope that you enjoy this, guys, and I will talk to you after quickly. And a big happy Father's Day again, guys, and hello to Daryl, Nigel, and to everybody in the room. I hope that you're all happy and healthy, and please share out, guys, and let people know that I'm on. Thank you. And here we go.
Such a Lord now be awaited in shadow. For your truth to be seen within thy letter, despite what many have thought to seek. The truth will always lead. Long now for the Bible, the lost magic has made its arrival.
Hello, guys, and welcome to the Lost Magics. So tonight we are going to be doing a topic that does regard in witches, but it also regards in the paranormal, guys. So tonight's topic that I'm going to be sharing with is the Blair Witch. First, I would like to do a big shout out to the Bold and Bonker Boys. I'd like to do a big shout out to Parapost and to our sponsors and to all of the networks that put our shows out there, and obviously to the TV show that is broadcasting my show today for the first time. So big shout out to all of you, and obviously to all of my angels in the room as well, and merry meeting. So as I said, we are today going to be talking about the Blair Witch. So I'm going to be talking to you about the film side of it first. I done this research, got the research from the one part of it from Google and then one from the Blair Witch site. So I've got two lots of different sort of work to talk to you about. So we're doing the film side, and then we're going to be talking into the category of a true story about a real woman that was supposed to be a witch, and what I think that these films were based off. Okay, so I do hope that you enjoyed the stream tonight and that you find this very interesting. Now, we all know that there are a lot of stories behind witches and woods and attacks and strange paranormal activity and supernatural things that happen. So this story is no different. It's just a little bit more scarier and supposed to be a bit more of the evil way. Okay, now you will come to understand why I believe that this is based on the films that are made when I tell you the true story about the female that is in this as well. So, first, I will start off with talking to you about the category side of it from the film. And then from that, we will go into talking about the actual story behind a real event that was to do with a witch. So, here we go. And a big welcome to you all, guys. So the Blair Witch was a legendary being in the Burkittsville, Maryland. Several mysterious events over the course of centuries became blamed on an existing woman named Ellie Kedwood, who was said to have practiced witchcraft. The witch is described by one woman as being covered in black fur, which is concluded beneath a wool shawl, and by another account having long spindly limbs. Ellie Kedwood. In the writing of the 1785, Ellie Kedwood was banished from the town of Blair after several local children had accused her of performing witchcraft. She was presumed dead from exposures. She was hung on a tree with stones tied to each of her limbs, stretching her body down with gravity. The next year, all of her accusers and half of the town's children vanished without a trace. Fearing a curse, the town people immediately fled Blair, vowing never to utter the name of Ellie Kedwood again. Sam Adams' book told of a trial of Ellie Kedwood, her execution, and her supposed rebirth, as well as the curse on the entire town. It contained a first recorded use of the term Blair Witch. Elaine Treacle, in 1825, a year after the town was rediscovered and founded as the Burkittsville, the villagers held the first annual harvest picnic. During the event, 10-year-old Elaine Treacle wandered off towards Trappy East Creek and drowned in the shallow waters. Eyewitnesses claimed to have seen a ghostly white hand reach up from the water and pulled her in. The creek was searched, but Ellie's body was never recovered. Afterwards, the creek mysteriously became clogged with oil bundles of sticks, rendering the water unless for the 13 days. A man drank the water sometime later and it killed him, while several animals also became sick and died. The incident was the first of the several to be blamed on the Blair Witch. Robin Weaver. In 1886, 8-year-old Robin was in the forest around Blair, which had been rediscovered and renamed Burkittsville. When she got lost and met an old woman whose feet, according to Robin, did not touch the ground, she was intentionally straight. But then she came to the old woman, who acted in a seemingly generous manner, and she followed the old woman deep into the woods to an old abandoned house, which she entered. Robin followed the woman and entered the house and followed the woman down to the basement. In the bowels of the house, the old woman said she would depart and left promising to return. Hours passed as Robin sat in the basement, which slowly grew darker as the afternoon faded into evening. Robin grew more and more frightened. She had been feeling a growing feeling of evil ever since she stepped into the basement. As she pictured herself all alone in the woods, which were becoming swamped in the darkness of the evening, Robin stood up and found a window in the basement, through which she squeezed herself and then ran through the darkening woods and out of the woods completely, racing back to Burkesville, to which she returned safely, although from then after she avoided the woods, claiming to feel an evil presence about the Burkesville forest. While Robin had been in the basement, however, she had been missed. Her grandmother had become anxious about her and she had alerted the authorities. The Burkesville police sent a search party up into the woods to rescue her. At the same time, Robin was led into the cellar by the old woman she had met in the woods. The police arrived in the woods and began looking for Robin, but when they arrived at Coffin Rock, the evil spirit of Ellie Kedwood, the Blair Witch, assailed and assailed the search party, having just left Robin in the house in order to seek out the search party. The search party were soon slaughtered by Ellie Kedwood and was disembodied, and their corpses were left on the Coffin Rock. Then she returned to the house, supposedly to kill Robin. However, she had discovered the empty house and realised that Robin had fled. Infuriated, Ellie Codwood took the corpses of the search party and dragged them off into the forest, all in the matter of 2 hours. But not before another search party had witnessed the corpses and knew of an evil force in the Burkesville woods. Massacre of the Burkesville Seven. In the late 1940s, a hermit named Ruster Parr began abducting children from Burkesville, having been previously ordered by the evil spirit of Ellie Goodwood to walk into Burkesville and to take the first group of children he found. He accomplished this by promising candy to the children. As Rustin was already being driven, made by the spirit of Ellie, stumbling about the woods at night and chanting foreign phrases in his sleep. This was an easy task for him to accomplish. He took the children back to his secluded house and brutally disembodied them, just as Ellie Kedwood had done with the search party. Rustin hid this. Secrets for the 2 days until Ellie Kedwood reappeared to him in his dream and proclaimed, "Peace shall come to thee if thee revealed thy actions." Rustin followed out this order and he walked into the town claiming, "I finally finished." Intuitively, no one knew what he meant, but the police ventured into the woods seeking his abode and found the 7 corpses of the children in the cellar. They removed them, taking them to the Burkesville, and this revolution tore up the community. The citizens of Burkesville proclaimed that Rustin Parr guilty as charged and desired to have him executed. Parr did not deny anything. He confessed that the last degree, informing the authorities of Burkesville that he was merely doing what an old woman dressed in black had told him to do. Parr was convicted and the authorities executed him by hanging in 1941. The old hog in around the 2014, Heather's young brother James Duhan received recent evidence of a video showing Heather alive and running from the unknown person. He saw that she was in a house in the forest that no one was ever able to find. He thought there was a chance she was alive and decided to film his search for her and the house in the forest. He took with him 5 friends. At least 4 of them were murdered in separate violent attacks. The fate of the final surviving two, James and Lisa, is unknown. They were last recording in a room in the house where Lisa recorded James vanishing from sight before she suffered the same fate. They both disappeared before the sight of light. Towards the end of their footage, a figure is briefly seen that appears to be James' missing sister. However, on a closer inspection, the figure appeared to be wearing a wool shawl, which Heather is never seen wearing at any point, and which covered a poorly lit black mass, which covers most of her visible body. Some of the history of the story of the Blair Witch. The article is about a franchise for the 2016 film of the same name. See Blair Witch film for the 2019 video game, and see Blair Witch video game. The Blair Witch is an American horror media franchise created by Daniel Myrick and Edgardo Sanchez, distributed by Artisan Entertainment, now Lionsgate, and produced by Hexen Films, that consist of three featured films and various additional medias. The development of the Francis first installment is the Blair Witch Project. Stated in 1993, Mitrick and Sanchez wrote a 35-page outline of a story with the dialogue to be improvised. Filming began in 1997 and lasted 8 days. The film follows the disappearance of 3 students, filmmakers, in the woods near Burkesville, Maryland. While shooting a documentary on the local legend known as the Blair Witch, after premiering at the 1999 Sundance Film Festival, the film was released on July the 30th, 1999. After months of publicating during a controversial promotional campaign, the film went on to be a massive commercial success and a sequel. Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 was released on October the 27th, 2000. A second official sequel, Blair Witch, was released on September the 16th, 2016. Series of these video games, books, novels, and comic books were released to accompany the film. The Fruits legend. The backstory of the movie is a fictional legendary created by Metric and Sanchez, which is detailed in The Curse of the Blair Witch, a documentary broadcast on the Sci-Fi Channel in 1999. Prior to the release of the Blair Witch Project, Sanchez and Maverick also maintained a website at blairwitch.com, which added further details to the legend. The fictional tale described the murders and the disappearance of some of the residents of Blair, Maryland. The fictitious former name of Burkesville, Maryland, from the 18th century to the 20th century. According to the legend, residents always blamed these occurrences on the ghost of Ellie Pedwood, also a fictitious person, a Blair resident executed in 1785 for exposure for practicing witchcraft. The documentary presented the legend as real, complete with manufactured newspapers and articles, news strills, television news and reports, and staged interviews in an attempt to convince viewers of its legitimacy. According to Ben Rock, the man who created the backstory of Hex, he took inspiration from the real Maryland legend of the woman Moll Dyer. Sometime in the winter of 1697, Dyer was accused of witchcraft, tried, and subsequently banished from Leonard Town, Maryland. Her body was later discovered frozen to a rock in the forest. The Blair Witch Project 1999. Heather Dahun, Michael Williams, and Joshua Leonard, student filmmakers, set out to shoot a documentary about the Blair Witch in the Black Hills Forest near Burkesville, Maryland. Many children had vanished in the 1940s, and people still avoided going too deep into the woods. The party sets out to look for facts and to prove the legend. Equipped only with two cameras and a little hiking gear, first they find little piles of stones that must have been arranged artistically later. They find themselves lost in the woods, eerie sounds at night, and more piles of stones in place where they have not been before, because the already desperate group to panic. One night, day after they should have been back home, Josh disappears. While searching for Josh, Heather, and Mike, find a derelict house in a clearing and go inside, where they see runic symbols on the walls next to child-size handprints. Josh's voice seemed to be coming from somewhere inside the house, and Mike rushed upstairs. Mike then realized that the voice is now coming from the basement and rushes down the steps. Suddenly, Mike is rendered silent and the cameras fall. Historically, Heather follows and sees Mike in the corner of the room, faced against a wall suddenly. Heather's camera is knocked down and she too is rendered silent. The film runs for a few seconds, then dies. The Book of the Shadows, Blair Witch 2. The Book of the Shadow, Blair Witch 2 returns to Maryland, Black Hills region in the wake of the Blair Witch Project and to prognize media coverage devoted to its conflagration of the documentary. Styles and supernatural legends, fans and curiosity seekers have descended upon the movie's real-life setting of Burkesville, Maryland. Jeff Parson and Jeff Donovan, a black sheep townie, only recently realized from a mental release from a mental institution, had turned his obsession with the Blair Witch into a business and has lured four young people to Burkesville for a tour of the witch's proposed Black Hills haunts. Jeff's clients are also fixed on the film for reasons they themselves may not fully comprehend. Gearson Eric Leeson is a practicing Wiccan who had immersed himself in the Blair Witch mythology. Even though she describes the film potentially to her fellow witches, grad students Tristan Styler, and Stephen Ryan Parker and Stephen Barker Turner are writing a book about the Blair Witch, but disagree completely about the story's basis in fact, with folklorist Tristan's arguing that it must contain some grain of truth, while Stephen insists it's just a textbook case of mass hysteria. Completing the group is Kim Diamond, Kim director, a hard-edged, sardonic goth enthusiastic, possessed of strikingly physic abilities. After spending a strange and disorienting night at one of the most sinister sites in the Blair Witch lore, the five compers awake to a scene of destruction and no memory of having gone to sleep. They return to Jeff's abandoned warehouse loft to try to piece together what happened. But as Jeff leads Erica, Tristan, Stephen, and Kim across the rickety drawbridge and unlocks the metal door to a curious of barking dogs, they are entering a place no safer than the woods they have just left. Inside, the legend seems to begin to bleed into reality as their mass hysteria in, ensues. Erica mysteriously disappears and Tristan ends up hanging himself from the second floor railing of the warehouse. The end of the film reveals that Jeff, Stephen, and Kim have been arrested. Each is interrogated separately, with the police showing each person's footage of their crimes. Security camera footage shows Kim stabbing a chaser in the neck. Surveillance cameras footage show a naked Jeff killing Erica, arranging her clothes and putting her dead body into a closet. Jeff's video shows Stephen assaulting Tristan, pushing her over the second floor banister and accusing her of being a witch. All three, close to a nervous breakdown, proclaim their innocence. The tie-in documentary to the Book of the Shadows, Blair Witch 2, established the events of the film being the in-universe documentary reveals the Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, a film adapted based on the Black Hill murders that took place shortly after the release of the Blair Witch Project. Shadow of the Blair Witch follows the real James Paterson's defense team as the case prepares for trial. And as the public reaches to plans to vocationate the case's events for the big screen from the defence's point of view, protests of the film's Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2 are discussed within the documentary, coming from both the families of those involved with the case and from the Wiccan community as a whole. Rachel Musgrise and Andre Brooks respectively portray the real Kim Diamond and Jeffrey Paterson within the documentary. On September the 2nd, 2009, Ed Sanchez and Daniel Metrick announced their intent to produce their third Blair Witch film. The film was a sequel to the first film, would potentially contain the actors from the first film in some context, and would not prefer any of the events from the Book of Shadows. In 2011, Sanchez remarked that further development on the sequel depended on getting Lionsgate's approval. The idea and for his and Maverick's schedule to be matched up. The film went into development hell. By January 2015, a third Blair Witch was still in the talks. Sanchez stated that the film was invertible. In July 2016, it was revealed at the 2016 San Diego Comic-Con that the film marked with the Fuchs title, The Woods, actually turned out to be the sequel, The Blair Witch. The film was released on September the 16th, 2016. The three films were The Blair Witch Project, The Blair Witch Curse, and The Blair Witch Legacy, Shadow of the Blair Witch 2. All were directed by Ben Rock and aired in 2000. So that was the first part of the story, guys. So obviously, like, a lot of people have watched The Blair Witch. They have seen the story. Now, there is a lot of people. There's people that believe in The Blair Witch, and there's people that believe that it is fictional, as it's been stated in some of this documentary bit that I looked up and got. It's literally based around a female that is supposedly supposed to go round and kidnap children lure them to the woods and kill them. But in some attempts, she has apprentices that she possesses because she's a spirit and gets them to do the work for her. These guys obviously face their consequences for their actions, and obviously, with her being a spirit, she gets away with all that she's doing. But there is supposed to be some truth and fact about this. Now, in looking into this, and I have seen the Blair Witch film, I've always believed that there is some truth to the story and that it is based on something. So I've done some research into the um, the true stories that could possibly be showing to do with the Blair Witch, and obviously I looked into Ellie Kidward, and it's got the story behind her and what happened to her and how she became how she did. So I'm going to read you the second part, which is about her and how she become estranged and how she become the way that she did. So the real story behind the so-called Blair Witch, the creepy legend of the Blair Witch Ellie Kidward. In the current American city of Burkesville, Maryland, there is a legend about a Blair Witch. The real name of this witch was Ellie Kedwood. Accused of witchcraft and convicted, Ellie was exiled to the Black Hills Forest. Here, the townspeople hung a witch on a tree and left him to die, carving under her feet the symbols of the elements of the universe that were to destroy her spirit. In 1786, the first testimonies appeared that the restless spirit of Ellie Kidwood was scattered around the area. The childhood tragedy. Ellie Kidwood's father was Welsh and her mother Irish. During childbirth, the girl's mother was bleeding to death, so the father was the only person close to Ellie. A guardian and a breadwinner in 1739 during the Irish farmers' uprising, the girl's father was fatally tortured and his remains mutilated in front of his daughter. For 10 years, the order had suffered not only the loss of loved one, but also the violence, the corruption, and the bullying of the rebels. After a long night of torture, Mr. Kedwood's body was casually thrown onto his dead his dead father and covered with tree branches. A decade-old girl left to die. Decayed old girl left to die in the cold, gloomy forest of Ireland realized that her only hope of survival was to try to warm herself from her dead father's body. In Parish, the local hermit was found to have been transported to a tiny shed where she was cared for about 4 weeks. According to the original costumes and the occult practices of the Tawana tribes, Ellie Kedwood's life was served in a variety of non-traditional ways, including the use of decanations of physioactive herb and transutes fluvi, a secret language which chipiers. The period of adversity. In the depth of the woods, Ellie Kedwood regained physical strength under the protection of the hermit, but the physique physique was irreversible, damaged, expressing a terrible shock living away from people, promoting the occult, and having no social skills. The girl lacked awareness of normal social life. Transute Fluvi understood the language of the verse much better than the language of the communication. The hermit who saved her taught Ellie Kedwood witchcraft, mystical rites, ceremonies, incarnations, and even curses. The great frost that engulfed Ireland in 1739 manifested itself in climate cataclysm, global fever, feminine poor harvest, and pagans that lasted Paragons that lasted 2 years and claimed thousands of lives, including the patron saint of Eli. The man died in 1741 of a severe form of dysentery. Not only the access to the cities, but also to the forests were covered with the bodies of the victims, and the ditches of the roadsides became the graves of many dead. During the Great Forest, Ireland lost around 300,000 people. 20-year-old Ellie Kedwood, after suffering another relentless blow to fate, lost her sanity. After a few days of wandering around Cork, the crazy girl was spotted by random passerbys and handed her over for treatment to a shelter in Backensthorpe, where she spent several years. Escaped from Ireland. In 1753, E. Kedwood became pregnant for the seventh time, and at the Backensthorpe shelter, none of her babies saw the light of day because the woman's body was unable to carry them. All Ellie's pregnancies were the result of abuse and the neglect of doctors. For many years, Berkenthorpe Physiatric ward, Patriotic Ward further accompanied Ellie's Kedwood's physiological conditions alongside Samprophenis and lunatics and manics. It is believed that a month after the loss of her seventh baby, Eli killed 8 people at the shelter who were responsible for all of her horrible experiences at the site. To escape from the shelter, Eli hid for a while in some woods where her father had been killed. After practicing occultism for several weeks and immersed themselves in traditional Hilvi incarnations, the woman held a ceremony in the forest for each unborn baby, marked by the mystical transcendent Fleuvi sign. 15 years completely isolated from people and society. In 1768, the queue was completed as Eli Kedwood. After robbing a house in Cork, the woman had enough money to start a new life. With stolen identity documents, she got on a ship sailing from Ireland to the US. In the summer of 1769, a new resident settled in Blair, Maryland. The Curse of the Forest. The wooded area known as the Black Hills was surrounded in a wide variety of suspicious and mystical stories. Even before the history of L.A. Kedwood, the local Indians avoided the forest from afar, believing that there was forces of evil and evil spirits in it. As early as the 1630s, an English colonel named Blair asked a local Indian tribe to help soldiers look around the Black Hills forest area. Locals, fearing revenge on English soldiers, did not refuse to help, but secretly planned abs- ab- assaultage against Colony Blair unit. Despite the clever Indian ambush, Blair and his men set up a fort in the Black Hill Forest to help protect themselves from the attack by the local Indian tribes. In 1634, the ill-fated town of Blair was founded in the vicinity of the fort. The allegations of witchcraft Less than a year after Miss Codwood arrived in town of Blair, several local children accused her of witchcraft. The little one told the town people that Ellie had lured her into a house and took a drop of blood for each of them with a needle inserted in her finger. Although the woman herself claimed to have tried to develop drugs for an unknown disease, the townspeople accused her of witchcraft and prostitution. Then, tying Ellie's arms, legs, and covering her face, they dragged her into the Black Hill Forest where they carved witch marks on her body and hung her on the tree and left her to die. Every day, the residents of Blair came to check if Ellie's life had already been extinguished, but the most brutal torture did not take the woman's life. Having finally decided that Codwood is a witch that is not destroyed by life-threatening injuries, the townspeople decided that the body left over during the winter would freeze, and the evil spirit would leave it on its own. The curse of the Blair Witch. When the spring came, the residents of the town of Blair were convinced that Miss Kedwood had died of starvation, cold, and exhaustion. In 1786, under mysterious circumstances, all of the children who accused Ellie of witchcraft disappeared every month. Under mystical circumstances, the town of Blair lost several inhabitants. The homes of some of the families burned down due to a midnight fire. Some people were found drowned in a stream in the country. Others disappeared without trace after rumours of Ellie Kidwood's spirit wandering around Blair. The rest of the town left home and set out in search of a haven, swearing never to mention Kedwood's name in their life. For nearly 4 decades, Blair was considered a ghost town with no living spirit but a host of legends soared. In 1809, the book The Blair Witch Cult by an unknown author was published. The only surviving copy of this book is in the Maryland State Museum of Public History, Baltimore. In the in in the 1820s, businessman Burkitt brought the derelict town of Blair from the state, renovated all of the direct buildings, and constructed the house in 1824. The town was renamed Burkittsville. This city still exists in the state of Maryland. In 1828, a girl named Elaine Treacle disappeared from Burkesville. The children playing with her claimed that the girl was drawn into a nearby stream by a white hand raising out of the water. Although the creek was shallow, no one could find the body of the poor little girl. A few weeks after the disappearance of Elaine, signs of transit furvi stacked from wooden sticks were found near the creek. In 1886, 4-year-old Robin Weaver disappeared into the Black Hill Forest. The frightened boy's parents organised a search, but late in the evening, Robin returned home saying that in the woods he met a woman who was walking in the footsteps without reaching the ground and led her to an abandoned forest hut. After panicking about the disappearance of R. Weaver, the town people did not receive a returning search group in any way, so they allowed themselves to be searched. The, the bodies of the first group of people were found at Coffin Rock, near the place where E. Trackle allegedly drowned 5 decades ago. In the 1940s, children began to disappear in the Burkesville area again. Residents of the town and the police officers began to suspect a new resident, Ruster Parr, who had purchased a forest hut in the Black Hill Forest a few years ago. After months of intensive research, Parr himself admitted to completing his plan. When the police arrived at his house, the remains of 7 children were found, and the man himself said he was ordered to do so by the woman's voice, which he kept hearing and which only stopped after the 7th victim was killed. The killer was hanged, and tragic events marked his Fawcett hut, and his Fawcett hut was burned to the ground. In 1999, the film project Blair Witch was presented in world's cinemas. Although the film itself is a feature film, it produces the 1994 outcome of the 20 and the 28 events. 3 Montgomery College students came came to the town of Burkesville to talk to locals for their documentary about Blair Witch. It was to be devoted to the final work of the cinema course. They all disappeared in the Berks Hill forest without knowledge. A little later, in the abandoned forest hut, film cameras tapes were found to capture the first day the students had become in the forest. However, that their further fate is still surrounded in mysterialism, and the bodies of these students were never found. So this story is based on a true story about a woman that was allegedly accused of being a witch. She was banished from her home state due to apparently being a witch. She had endured pregnancies 7 times, but was not able to carry any of these children that were hers. So in that, it sent her crazy through losing her parents, losing her unborn children. This sent her into a crazy frenzy, and the facts of how she had been treated by professionals and by residents of that town. She seeked out revenge after her death. So she was hanged, which is murdered, for who she was and what she believed in. She was mistreated when being alive. So in those actions, she sought revenge, and she went after the children because she wasn't able to parent children herself. She would kill anybody that crossed her territory or tried to find anything out about her. She was a very troubled soul when living that wasn't treated very well, and she became a very evil and tortured soul in the spirit world. And this is allegedly how she started doing these killings, and these disappearance of children and other people would happen. And through this going on, obviously, as it says, there were some so-called students that went to look into this documentary and into her and what actually happened. And in the thought of doing that, they also mysteriously disappeared. It's not known if they lost their lives. Their bodies were never found, and they have never turned back up, just like a lot of the children and the other residents that were killed that were part of the town, the Blair town. So my aim was to give you a little insight into the story of the Blair Witch through the film, and then I done some research where I looked into some true stories and where these films could have been related from. Now, I do very much feel that all 3 of these Blair Witch films that were made that are supposed to be fictional are actually based on these true life events of Ellie Kedwood. Okay, and I believe that they just enhanced some of the storylines. Obviously, all films and producers have to make films be watchable and be something that people are going to want to watch and take on, and it's meant to capture your mind. So they're going to add things in there that may not necessarily happen, but there is a lot of the story that I've just read to you, the true story about the real witch, the real Blair Witch. it very much associates and fits in with the films that were made. So I do believe that the films that they made weren't made on a fictional basis, that it was made on a true basis, but they tried to put it out as being fictional because of the stories and because of the situations and stuff that are going on. So, to my knowledge, even up till today, there are still supposed to be rumours and stories of that the Blair Witch exists, the Blair Witch is around. That there's meant to have been numerous attacks. There's been numerous situations that have supposed to have occurred around these areas, and up to this very day, there are some that still very much believe that it's a true story, as I do myself, and some do seek to look into this. Now, for me, as an investigator, I believe in it, but I do believe that some of the films are a bit far-fetched in some of it. So for me, I'm one of these that I want to investigate it, but I don't want to investigate it. I want to investigate it because I want to get the truth behind the story. I want to try to, understand an outcome of why she was the way she was and try to understand how she feels and things because of how she was treated and stuff. But at the same time, I don't want to go there because of the stories of how people have gone missing and how they've lost their lives and they've never turned back up. So, in my opinion, it's one of these topics where you want to do it, but you don't want to do it because there's a factor to both sides. You could go there, you could be safe, you could do the investigations, but then you could go there and something really bad could happen to you. It is one of those stories. It's one of those that a lot of people in their mind think, is it real or is it not? Now, face it, there are so many witch stories about witches in woods, in strange huts, and strange supernatural goings on, and people going missing or being killed, things like that. This is something that is very much apparent around a lot of witch stories, which is really sad. But in this case, this is something that actually happened. This lady had some spiritual beliefs. She was very spiritual in who she was, and these people did not like that about her. They did not like her ways of practice, and through these children reporting her, she faced her fate like many other witches did, and she was killed and murdered for what she believed in. And through the not being treated right by these people and losing the 7 children that she tried to mother through pregnancy, this sent her crazy, and she was hell bent on revenge. Okay, she wanted revenge, and even though some of it is really horrible and the children didn't deserve to be taken and be sacrificed and things, I can understand her anger and upset as well because of the way that she was treated. And there is a lot of stories out there where supposable spirits change and become negative and evil because of wrongdoings to them. So for me, that was what I wanted to. I wanted to just kind of give you the factors and the story behind the Blair Witch, and then I wanted to give you factors and the story behind the true part of the Blair Witch and who the real Blair Witch is supposed to be. Okay. What do any of you guys feel about the Blair Witch? What are your opinions on the Blair Witch? Do you think that is based on a true story, or do you think that it's fictional, like some people say? You do. You can see the side of why she done what she done, and because of the way she was treated. But then on the other side, you see that some of the actions that she did wasn't right. She shouldn't have gone after the children and done stuff to the children. Her losing her children, which is a really sad thing to have to go through, didn't mean resulting in killing other innocent children. A lot of that I think was out of jealousy and pain. And through her being who she was judged and killed, and that's how the evil wrath of the Blair Witch came to light, guys. I have got this on file. I can. It was. It was her gifts and who she was her downfall, like a lot of witches and stuff, you know. In our time, you know, we're spiritual, we believe in who we are, we believe in our world and in our practices and what we do. We were very proud and very prominent in what we done. But there were so many that were against us that a lot of our ancestors and that were wrongly killed for their beliefs. And this is no different for her. And through that, she's one of the witches that seek revenge. And you know, in some ways I can understand, but like I said, I don't agree that she went after the children and things and stuff like that. But she was so overcome by pain and deceit and hurt that nothing seemed to matter to her anymore. And I think that her taking these children and making these children disappear was her way of taking the happiness of families that had what she had took away from her. And I think that's why she done it. It was very sad that what was done to her, but it's very sad what happened to the children and stuff as well. You know, like this is a story that's a bit of like both, isn't it? Really, like you feel sorry for the children and and that the fact that they lost their lives, but then you feel sorry for her because of what happened to her and the things that she wanted so much she didn't get. And in the end, you know, like Colleen said, you know, who she was her fate, and is what ended her, and it was. And it's really sad, but in my opinion, like some of you in the room, I do believe that this story is a real one. If it's one that I think I would go to seek for, I'm not sure if I would, because I don't think I would want to tempt fate and possibility of being killed or disappearing. It is a fascinating case, and it's one that's still very much not fully understood or known. Um, like in some ways, I feel like I want to do it. That maybe she would be acceptance to me because I'm a witch myself. But at the same time, she could be very funny about that, and she may not like other people being there. It's clear she doesn't like other people walking on her land, so she may not even like people like us walking on her land, even though that we're like her, you know. So it's one of them things where you're like, would I or would I not? I'm in between. I don't know. It is. It's a big tragedy because she went through a lot of problems and she faced a lot of horrible situations. And I pray that one day that maybe the truth fully will be found out, and maybe her name will be made to look better through the facts of what she went through, but obviously not forgetting what she'd portrayed out to do because of that as well, you know. So that was my Lost Magic show, The Blair Witch. Okay, guys, I hope that you did enjoy that. Again, like I said, I found that this was a very interesting story to cover because it's to do with witches, but it's also to do with the supernatural and the paranormal, which is what our community is all about. So I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that you listening to that story kind of got you guys to understand a little bit more behind who the Blair Witch was and is, and why she may have been how she has turned out to be. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and guys, I hope that you bring some really cool things to your channels and stuff like that, and you can bring out some inspirational stories. I am going to be doing things like this over the Bold and Bonkers show, my Lost Magic show, where I'm going to be bringing in different characters of the paranormal as well as witch stuff as well. So it's going to be a mix, guys, because I think to keep the channel going the way it needs to go, and to keep this show going, it needs to be a majority of different things. So even though it is a lot about witchcraft, it's going to be about paranormal, UFOs, cryptos, stories about hauntings, things like that, because this is what we all reside in and work in. So I'm bringing that and incorporating that in my Lost Magic shows, guys. So next week, I am thinking of doing the stories behind the Slender Man. Okay, so I'm going to be doing some research into that next. I just think it's really important, and at the minute, I want to cover like stories on things that are supposed to happen, and reside in why these energies are the way that they are, and how they may have come to light. And I think it's really important because anybody in the paranormal and in the strange and the unknown knows that spirits and energies can come from various different places, and even from ourselves. So I just think it's really, really cool to cover those insights and those ways of life that we research and studying every day. So keep doing your inspiring work, guys. Keep being awesome. Keep being amazing. Keep tuning into all of our amazing shows. A big shout out to Parapost and to our sponsors, and to the live TV podcast that's doing my show today as well. Big shout out to all of the other platforms that are supporting us and helping the network to get out there. Big shout out to Chris and Dakota for always doing awesome shows and allowing us to be who we want to be. So a big shout out to all of you, and to you guys in the room for just supporting us. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to be who we are today, guys. So you guys most definitely as well. So lots of love and light. So if Chris or Dakota wants to come up and say anything quickly, you can jump up on the post. If not, I'm going to end this stream, and I send you lots of love, light, and blessings, guys. And thank you for joining us. And we hope that you enjoyed the Lost Magics. And please tune in next week on Friday for the second part, which is the Slender Man. And don't forget to tune in over the weekend for Chris and Dakota's shows as well. They're going to be awesome. And look out for Sister Drew and people as well, guys. Lots of love, light, and blessings, and a merry parting. One! All right. Come on. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on. Let's go. Yeah. All right. Hello, guys. I hope that you enjoyed that show, and that was about the Blair Witch. These are the shows that I do through the Bold and Bonkers, guys. So if you enjoy all sorts of the strange and the unknown, which I know you all do through the networks and through the community that we're in, then Bold and Bonkers is definitely the one to catch. My Lost Magic shows on Fridays are about a number of different aspects in the strange and the unknown. As I said in the video, it's all about paranormal, supernatural, ufology, crypto, stories, interviews, all sorts of things. And obviously, this is all going to be brought out on the DNTV and all of the other networks as well. Obviously, there are certain names that I'd mentioned in the videos that are now not associated with us. So, and you know who they are. But the rest of the guys I shout out, and you can see them all on my page bit here, -1. So I hope that you really enjoyed that, guys, and I hope that you're all doing really well today. And obviously it is Father's Day for all of the lovely gentlemen out there, so I hope that you are having an amazing day and that you are being spoiled. And I hope that you did enjoy the show. I really enjoy doing these sort of shows because you can learn a lot of things, and obviously a lot of the work that we work in is something that is not fully understood or established. So that's why we really, really enjoy our work, because it's about finding out and looking into that and trying to find maybe stories and backgrounds behind some of the things. When you do these sort of shows where you do stories on so-called hauntings, spirits, and so on, I enjoy very much so doing all of this. I like to bring a bit of everything to my shows because I think it's interesting. I do apologise when you do hear me doing the reading side of things, because I am dyslexic. So sometimes some of my words I get a bit tongue twisted with, but you can understand what I'm saying. And I do enjoy to bring this out. And I'm very passionate about my work. And I am very passionate about the networks that I work for. And I do want to be able to bring the best content that I possibly can to entertain and to give you guys something to be able to watch. So tomorrow, because for this next week I'm going to be putting up shows to do with Bold and Bonkers, my Lost Magic show. So tomorrow will be the carry on from the Blair Witch, will be the Slender Man. So you will be able to hear the stories behind that and some truth facts on how that come alight, how the Slender Man was supposed to have come to light as well. So I hope you're going to enjoy that. It will be the same time as today, 6:30, that you'll be seeing this show. Obviously, then it will go on to some of the ufology stuff that I have researched in as well. So I hope that you really do enjoy all of the shows that I bring out to you. I know that these ones are normally aired out anyway, but I just thought that it'd be really good in my side to do that as well, because these are shows that I am very proud of, and I am very grateful for all of the opportunity that I'm given to be able to do these shows. And obviously, I'm really grateful to DNTV and PD and Global and Bold and Bonkers, to all of the guys that are giving me that opportunity to be who I am. And I hope that you did enjoy the shows, guys. And I want to say a big thank you to everybody that's come in and supported and enjoys my work. That's what I want to be able to do. I want people to be able to enjoy what I do and, you know, learn from it. And maybe even give yourself the inspiration to bring out shows and things that you want to do. Because let's face it, when we're researchers and investigators and stuff, you know, that's really important to do. And it's really important to give out work and inspiration to your viewers as well, your fam, as we call them. So I hope that you did enjoy the show. Obviously, these shows are not going to be long. It is just me premiering the shows, me doing a little talk after, just saying thank you to all of you guys. I would like to say thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a lovely Sunday, guys, especially the daddies of the world at the minute. And lots of love, light, and blessings, guys. And I will talk to you all very, very soon. And thank you for the love and support. And a merry parting to you all. And I'll talk to you very soon. So I'm just going to go out with the intro again, guys. That was made by lovely PD and obviously by Phil as well. So thank you to all of you guys for giving me that opportunity to be able to do the work that I do. So lots of love and light, and I will see you all very, very soon. And stay spooky and stay awesome. Thank you for watching, guys. See you soon. Love and light.